Where do you get all that energy?
All right, Ben Jarofsky, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You sounded pretty good.
Sounding better?
Yeah, just worry like you're not talking enough. You see how I talk? I just talk compulsively, and then you can tell.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I'll do our opening, and then you tell me how it sounds, okay? And then I'll give you a song of the day. All right, here we go. Your Ben Jarofsky show for Tuesday. February 23rd is just moments away. But before we go any further, we need to thank our sponsors. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. The Chicago Federation of Labor are sponsors. All right, we're good. Oh, Ben, your camera fell. Oh, my God.
Hold on now.
I'm telling you, dude, the camera keys, you get some duct tape, duck it down.
Oh, that's what. Wait a minute. Duct tape.
Okay, there we go. Ben's back. Ben's back.
What a good-looking guy.
Hey, the Chicago. Okay, watch your language. The Chicago Federation of Labor sponsors, as well as the Chicago Reader, chicagoreader.com for all things there is to know about the city of Chicago, where to go, what to do, what the people are thinking about the politics, the mayor, aldermen, women, so much. The Chicago Reader, go check it out. Also, chicagoreader.com/Jarofsky for all things there is to know about the latest book from our very own Ben Jarofsky. It's the greatest hits. Go check it out. Also, become a Benhead. That's right. That's what we're calling fans of the show. Benhead. Are you a Benhead? Well, we're going to find out. chicagoreader.com/Jarofsky for more information and how you can help the program. Do I sound okay? Oh,
sound good.
That's a thumbs up. All right. Hey, what's going on, Terry? Pat Rod's on early. What's happening, man? All right, you do have a song of the day. Your song of the day is Who Loves You by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Who loves you, baby, baby? Who loves you, really? Da, da, da. He's not really falsetto. You know, usually he's like, candy, candy.
Ooh.
Oh, no, it's Sherry, Sherry, baby. And this one, he's kind of like the more mature Frankie Valli. Who loves you, baby, baby?
All that's in the song. I've never heard it. All that's in there, that talking part and everything that you were doing. Wow, what a weird song.
None of that's in it. Because I don't know the words, so it's called improv. You know, it's just mastering the craft.
Sorry for the delay, live stream, folks, but we are good to go. We are live, and the Ben Jarofsky Show starts now. It is Tuesday, February 23rd, and live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Jarofsky Show. Today on the program, it's the long-awaited return of our Chicago Reader colleague, Maya Dukmasova. And now your host, the long-awaited return. It's been about 3 days. Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Jarofsky.
Yeah, hello, everybody. Ben Jarofsky here. We're calling this Neera No Tuesday, and here's why. Good weekend. You have a good weekend, D?
Let me think. Yes, I did. Very good weekend. Right. Very relaxing.
Do any skiing this weekend?
No, unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. Couldn't get it in my schedule.
Yeah, a little disappointed. I love the idea of D on the slope. Jean-Claude Dealey. Get it? Achille.
I like Dr. Ski.
Dr. Ski. Back home in Alton, they call him Dr. Ski. Anyway, saw some great flicks this weekend. The Swimming Pool, so good. I don't know if anybody else can see it. Came out in 2003. Took me a while to catch up. Promising Young Woman, Carey Mulligan, one of those flicks that I'm a little embarrassed to admit how much I liked it, because upon reflection, what a dumb movie. Plus, I was up late reading The Flight Attendant, a real page-turner. And anyway, there was so much news confronting me when I finally woke up all blurry-eyed today, because I've been up so late last night, that I decided to zero in on something that nobody else is talking about, because that's how we roll, Dr. D.
Hey, can we get a brand new impression on the Ben Joravsky Show? Can we hear zeroing in?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, watch this. And I'm doing the like a little mime too. You can see that on the camera. We want to get these cameras back.
Oh yeah, let's get them back where they just fall off your computer and just we see your ceiling for about 3 minutes. Let's get that going.
It's true. Yeah, because the camera thing, I take it down. I should probably just leave it up. But then I have this weird paranoia. May I share this with you, D?
Sure.
I have this weird paranoia that someone's watching me through the camera.
Oh.
Now, I know that's weird. You're thinking, oh, Christ, I work with this boomer. But it's true. It's like, we're watching you. So I always take the camera down when I'm not doing the show. And then it's difficult to get it back. Anyway, focus, Ben, focus. I'm concentrating on the scandal that we know as Neera Gate. Yes, I know I'm not supposed to say gate anymore, but old habits are hard to break. Can't help myself, to quote the Four Tops. All right, let me remind you, Neera Tanden is a Democratic strategist and operative who used to work for Hillary Clinton, and she loves Hillary Clinton, ladies and gentlemen, very, very much. Joe Biden nominated her to lead the House Office of Management and Budget. Supposedly, she's really smart and can handle the job, but that's not the problem. The problem is her tweeting. She's a compulsive tweeter, or used to be. She used to stay up all late into the wee hours tweeting, and it didn't matter who was tweeting back. It could be some kid in high school. She'd be smack-talking him. Don't you say anything bad about Hillary Clinton. I mean, I can kind of relate, because I'm up late at night reading The Flight Attendant. It's 4 a.m. My wife's, Betty, come to bed already. No, this is a great part. So I can kind of relate to Neera Tanden up all night tweeting. Generally insults the Republicans and Bernie Sanders supporters. She hates Bernie Sanders supporters, which is a little odd, I might say, for a Democrat. Just saying. Now, I know a lot of you Hillary Clinton fans out there are still licking your wounds over 2016, and you somehow or other convince yourself that Bernie is the reason you lost. I understand that, okay? I still have not gotten over what? What have I not gotten over yet, D, that I still blame people? 1972! George McGovern lost. Still mad at Richard Daley. Could have been a better sport, got out to vote for him. Okay, so I can understand holding grudges for a long time, Hillary Clinton supporters. But come on, stop picking on Bernie supporters. Bernie came out and campaigned for Hillary eventually. Come on. Anyway, it was Neera Tanden who tweeted, and I quote, "Vampires have more heart than Ted Cruz," which factually is true, or would be true if vampires really existed, because Ted Cruz clearly has no heart. But accuracy is not the issue here, ladies and gentlemen. Civility is. And in the post-Trump era, Democrats are supposed to be civil to Republicans. They're even supposed to be civil to Bernie Sanders supporters. But I don't know any Democrat who is threatening not to vote for Neera Tanden because she was nasty and mean to Bernie supporters. Just saying. By the way, it's only Democrats who are supposed to be civil. Republicans are free to be as mean and nasty as they want to be because they never complained about it when Trump was being uncivil. So it wouldn't be hypocritical for them to suddenly complain about it, if that follows. Anyway, in an effort to be civil, Tanden deleted the offensive tweets, apologized for making them, and promised never, ever, ever to tweet nasty tweets again. But apparently she still doesn't have the votes to pass. It's 50-50 in the Senate, as you all know, so she needs every single Democratic vote if she's not going to get any Republican votes. And Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia has already said he's going to vote against her because she was uncivil to Republicans. Not one word about Bernie Sanders supporters, but she was mean to Ted Cruz. So she can only get pass. She can only be confirmed if at least one Republican votes for her. But all the likely candidates, Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, have said they're voting against her. Collins has raised a very unusual explanation that had me thinking. She's concerned about Tandon's commitment to transparency since Tandon erased all those tweets. It's not so bad, according to Collins, that Tandon made the tweets, but it's untransparent to delete them. And I can see the logic there. My attitude is if you tweeted, stand by them. Let the record stand. Now the question is, D, how would I vote if I were senator? Drum roll. I would vote no. Yes, that's correct, D. I would vote no. Her erasing tweets would be like me erasing old columns. You know, old offensive columns that I'm embarrassed about. You know, there's a few of them out there. My line in this is, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Not that tweeting is a crime or column writing, but you get the point. We got a great show today, everyone. Maya Dukmasova will be here. She's not erasing old tweets.
Oh, hell no. Maya! Come on.
You know what my favorite Maya appearances are? When something happens right before she comes on the show and she's just too fired up to like censor herself in any way. And we get like, yeah! Maya riffing on guitar, wow, wow, like that great moment when a good question, Madam Mayor, good question. Remember that one?
Of course.
That was one of my favorite Maya appearances.
Oh, yeah. That was because of Maya.
It was because of Maya. Maya went and saw Hillary Clinton being interviewed by Mayor Lori Lightfoot, some of the puffiest softball questions you can imagine, without any sense of irony about it, without like making jokes about it or anything. And then that one puffball question, and Hillary goes, "Oh, good question, Madam Mayor. Good question." Maya came in all fired up. So she's going to be fired up today. We'll be talking about policing matters in the city of Chicago with Maya. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, actually from Godfrey. Yes. Born in Alton, raised in Godfrey. A lot of people don't know this. The man got Fridians.
You got me on that one. I don't know what that would be. But yes, Godfrey, Illinois, right next to Alton.
Right. The man that people from Godfrey, the man that Miles Davis likes to call Dr. D with the news.
Hey there. Dennis here.
How did you go from sharing stories over the years to deciding to write a book?
Good question, Mayor. Good question.
I never get tired of that one. That's right up there with Raylo. No offense. Oh, my God. Sorry, D. Focus, Ben. Focus.
All right, so let's zero in on what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. Ben, zero in. Zero in. That's good stuff. I think. I don't know. I got maybe good stuff. I'm not sure. Jury's still out.
You know, do you think Rush Limbaugh came up with stuff like that? I've been thinking a lot about Rush Limbaugh lately, you know? Like they don't say what you will about his politics, but he was a maestro of radio. Oh, yeah? Did he ever come up with...
You know, I think on occasion I did hear that from time to time. These damn hippies, doing his own voice. And
these damn hippies. Oh, God. I'll tell you what hell is. Hell is in a car going from Chicago to DeKalb with Steve the ad salesman saying, "Hey, I got a great idea. Let's listen to Rush Limbaugh." No, Steve. No, I really like him.
Let's go to the news chopper here. These damn dirty hippies. But hey,
sorry, D.
No, that's okay. That's fine. It's a Tuesday. We're having fun. We begin in Illinois. Yes, Mike Madigan again. Step down. You know, Republican Congressman Mike Boast, I know you're sick of it.
I'm sick of it. Every year we give power to one person.
But your dreams may soon be a reality, sir. All right? But first, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Today, the governor was at Washington Middle School in Springfield at 11 a.m. to announce the expansion of a monthly food benefits program to help children across Illinois. He was then at the Illinois Emergency Management Agency in Springfield at 12:30, like a half hour ago, to discuss a low-interest loan program to help communities with utility costs. You know, that's really nice, but you know, it makes you kind of wonder, Ben, how many vaccine shots has Governor J.B. Pritzker got? You hogging all the shots, dude? You're going to all these places?
I think he's got the shots I'm supposed to get. By the way, still on some waiting list for the shot. I'm like the only guy. Sorry, Ben, not for you. You don't know the right people. You got to know the right people to get that shot. That's how it works in Illinois. That's how it works in Chicago. You got to know somebody. JB, wherever JB goes, it's like a promotional thing, you know, to highlight the importance of getting the shot. You think he just gets another shot, Dave? Well, you know, what the hell? Since you're got the needle out, yeah, what the hell? Pop me something. It's sort of like, I wonder what I haven't read this. I haven't read the science. I haven't read the science of this, D. Like, what's the science on getting more than one shot? Ooh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that give you even more protection? JB, just for the heck of it, I'll have one for the road.
Right,
okay,
that's what I'm saying. He's going on his vaccination tour. Hey, you know what? Before I get out of here, hit me.
Come on, big guy. And I don't even want a Band-Aid. No, come on. I don't need a Band-Aid. You know, after the shot, they put the Band-Aid on. Yeah. Band-Aids are for wimps. I'm the governor.
So Governor Pritzker followed his big budget address last week.
We're going to have to make some painful cuts
Hey, you
in state government.
Stay away from me, sir. With a big bill signing this week. And I'm sorry. Governor Pritzker followed his big budget address last week with a big bill signing this week. I'll get through it, Ben. Don't worry. Ben, can we just reelect him right now? Can we just get this over with?
Yes. I want to reelect him right now. He's the one. Everybody hates him these days, so I kind of like him. That's how I roll, D. Everybody goes this way, I go that way.
Governor J.B. Pritzker signed a sweeping criminal justice bill into law Monday. Whoa, that's a brand new sound effect. Hey, now, that wasn't in the pre-show meeting.
Was the other one? I can't remember.
No.
Zeroing in.
Governor Pritzker signed a sweeping criminal justice bill into law Monday, moving Illinois closer to ending cash bail and requiring police officers to wear body cameras, arguing the package will lead to, quote, true safety, true fairness, and true justice. The 764-page criminal justice bill was crafted by the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus. It passed the General Assembly last month during the legislature's lame duck session. It ends cash bail in the state, creates a statewide certification program for police officers, mandates 3 phone calls for detainees, and allows for more judicial discretion in sentencing. Ahead of the signing, Pritzker said the bill, quote, marks a substantial step towards dismantling the systemic racism that plagues our communities, our state, and our nation, and brings the state closer to, quote, true safety, true fairness, and true justice. I do have the Republican response here. I'll go ahead and read it real quick before we go to Ben. Republicans do disagree, calling the new law, quote, an insult to our first responders, law enforcement, and the law-abiding citizens. House Republican leader Jim Durkin, said the governor's decision to sign the bill shows he's, quote, turned his back on the, quote, good men and women of law enforcement. Jimmy D goes on here saying the governor's support of House Bill 3653 is an insult to our first responders, law enforcement, and law-abiding citizens of Illinois who want to live free of violence and destruction from the criminal element. It's clear that Governor Pritzker does not understand this bill and what it means to our criminal justice system. Illinois and its citizens will not be safer because of this bill. At a crucial time when we should coalesce around the good men and women of law enforcement, Governor Pritzker has turned his back on them with his signature on House Bill 3653. Representative Republican out of Mokina, Tim Ozinga, said he was disappointed that the governor, quote, decided to toss these concerns aside instead of vetoing this legislation and allow the General Assembly to do our work correctly. And a coalition of Illinois law enforcement leadership said in a January statement the, quote, so-called reforms in the bill would destroy law enforcement's ability to keep communities safe.
What a bunch of BS. What a bunch of frauds. Are you kidding me? First of all, where were these Republicans on January 6th when the mob was assailing the Capitol to overturn the election? The guy was whacking a cop over the head with a hockey stick. Where were the Republicans then? They're so full of remember when the one good thing, and we praised him on the show, Donnie Trump, somehow or other. I don't know what it was from or what got into him, but remember he was going to quote unquote reform the prison process. People who are in jail for prison for a long, long time would have an easier time. First step bill. Remember how proud he was of that? He spoke about it at the convention. They had the lady who was let out of prison in Kentucky speak on his behalf. It was the reason Kanye West endorsed him. Remember Kanye West in the White House asking for him to have consideration for Larry Hoover, the notorious gangster from Chicago who's in federal prison? Remember how Trump was nodding his head? Remember all that, D? Where was Jimmy Durkin for that? You guys are such frauds. How about when Ice Cube endorsed, or all but endorsed Donald Trump? Remember Ice Cube wrote the song "Fuck the Police"? Where was Jimmy D for that? You guys are such frauds. They never want to work on anything together. Cash bail. How is that going to, if you keep people locked up, just suspects, they haven't quote unquote been, they're still innocent and to presume guilty. Isn't that what's the standards that was applied for Donald Trump? So you're innocent until proven guilty as long as you're a white guy and a Republican. Okay, I get it. You're innocent until proven guilty as long as you're a white guy with a hockey stick whacking a cop over the head. But if you're a black guy picked up for a joint, you're guilty. Go to jail. God, this is such. That's why you can't deal with him, D. Can't deal with the Republic. I'm looking for a Republican. Talk about, let's be civil. Let's compromise. So let's say you're for criminal justice reform with Donnie Trump's proposing it, but you're against it when it's a Democrat like J.B. Pritzker. What a bunch of frauds. F-R-A-U-D. Frauds. Wait a minute. Can we redo that and let me put the S on the end of that?
Yeah, let's redo that. Okay, here we go. Just spell it again. 3, 2, 1, go.
F-R-A-U-D-S. Frauds. By the way, folks, I know Dennis's tricks. He goes, don't worry, Ben, I'll correct it for the podcast. And I listen to the podcast. He leaves it in there. Anyway, dude, no, Republicans is like knee-jerk opposition to any idea that a Democrat comes up with the state of Illinois. They never work together. And but a Republican comes up with a similar idea. Oh, it's a great idea. Wow. Remember when Donald Trump was trying to win, and Republicans, not just Donald Trump, were trying to win over black voters? Oh, criminal justice reform that Donald Trump signed. Only Donald Trump could sign it. Well, here's why only Donald Trump can sign something like that. Because whenever a Democrat makes any move for legitimate criminal justice reform that will help some ordinary guy, some ordinary black guy on the west or south sides of Chicago, you can guarantee that a whole chorus of white Republicans will stand up in Springfield and go, this is dangerous to law enforcement. That crime, that law and order rhetoric that's left over from the days of Richard Nixon and the Southern strategy still prevails in Jimmy Durkin's mind. So that's why, you want to know why Democrats, this is the game Republicans play. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and Democrats so scared of those swing voters in Wisconsin, then try to comply with the Republicans and like dilute their legislation. In this case, Pritzker does the right thing, and he's just sailed as being anti-police. Frauds. Absolutely. Where's Jared Kushner to denounce Jim Durkin? Where's Ivanka? Where's Donald Trump? Where's Kanye West? What a bunch of frauds, D. What a bunch of frauds.
So what do you say? Like he's had like 75 vaccine shots by now? 65? What do you think? What do you think? What's the ballpark?
The over-under is 50.
Oh, 50. All right.
Yeah.
Live stream chat. Weigh in.
Just one for the road. It's like some people have a cocktail. Yeah, just top it off. You just top it off. You know, like a half a vaccine. Sometimes it's just a half, D. You got about a half a vaccine. Yeah, well, throw it in there, huh? You know?
All right.
I'm still waiting for my first, by the way. Anytime you want to get me a vaccine, JB, no, it's okay by me.
And since we're talking about our Illinois friends of the conservative persuasion, oh, watch out, got some fireworks here. It is official. While facing a packed-in, almost entirely unmasked crowd of supporters.
What else? What else?
The downstate senator, Darren Bailey.
That is correct.
That guy.
That is correct.
Kicked off his bid. Oh my, they are party to run for governor and unseat Governor J.B. Pritzker next year, citing that the utter failure of the Chicago Democrat is very big. I don't know. I kind of left that.
How many shots go? How many shots do you think DB's had, by the way?
I don't know.
Pandemic shot. I don't believe in it. I don't need it.
Before hundreds of supporters at the Thelma Keller Convention Center, he portrayed himself as an everyman who can unify forgotten residents. Here are the quotes from Darren Bailey's gubernatorial announcement. And Ben, not that I'm keeping track or anything, I called it, quote, here we go. Governor Pritzker and the Democrats have failed us, and it's time to fix it, the state senator from Southern Illinois told the crowd. Governor Pritzker says it's not a big deal that people are leaving the state in droves. 850,000 is not a trickle, Governor. It's a torrent. Bailey, 54 years old, has made a name for himself battling Pritzker over COVID-19 and arguing the downstate Illinois should break away from Chicago. If you didn't know that, by the way, welcome to the Ben Joravsky Show. We talk about it like every day. You must be new. But on Monday, far too long citizens of Illinois have been left without a voice, Bailey said. People in Illinois have been divided. We've been used. We've been mocked. We've been marginalized. People in Illinois have been ignored based on their race. They've been ignored based on their class, their zip code, or by special interests. So it's officially official, I guess, Ben. Darren Bailey is running for governor against J.B. Pritzker.
Well, let the record show, as Dennis pointed out, that Dr. D, I'm giving him a shout out, was the first to comment that obviously DB, Darren Bailey's getting ready to run for governor. I remember it was a news update. Yes, the Ben Joravsky Show has a special obsession with DB, Darren Bailey. And we've been talking about him for a long time. That's why it's funny, D, when he announced that you could tell not everybody listens to the Ben Joravsky Show, because I'm reading like the Tribune account of it. He goes, you may not know, but Darren Bailey, and then they feel, what can we say about Darren Bailey that your average Chicago Tribune reader would then go, oh, that guy. And so they go, well, he's the one who didn't wear the face mask, and Michael Madigan kicked him out. And then Chicago Tribune readers all over the north side of Chicago go, oh, that guy. You don't know him as Big DB, big feller from downstate Illinois. Okay, he was one of the guys they thought like Rauner was too wimpy. That's how conservative he is. He's like to the right of Rauner. He's going to unite us. By the way, a special shout out to Jim Coogan, ace attorney and frequent guest on the Ben Joravsky Show talking about legal issues. Jim was all over this story, D. And when I woke up at the ungodly early hour of 9:45, yes, I was up early today, D, chopping wood. I found a text already from Jimmy Coogan announcing, showing me that Darren Bailey had announced. And so thank you, Jim, for the update. And yes, it's not a surprise at all. It's to listeners of the show. He was clearly positioning himself as the heir to Jeannie Ives and the real far right nut wing part of the Republican Party, which seems to be the only part of the Republican Party. D, I especially liked, he had his statement in his announcement speech about wanting to unify the state. I laughed. I think of a lot of things when I think of Darren Bailey. Don't think of him as a unifier. And if you recall, the finest moment, Jim Durkin, I'm going to give him a shout out, Jim Durkin, okay? The finest moment when Jim Durkin summoned up the courage to criticize one of the Pritzker protester who had a sign with a swastika on it. And he said, that's not where we're at. That's not what Republicans should stand for. We shouldn't go around with swastikas. DB said, well, I'm not sure oh, that was really a Republican. Could have been one of those Antifa. He said the same thing about the rioters at the Capitol. So that's great moments and bringing everybody together. He's not quite sure he's ready to criticize the clear Republican for the swastika. Remember when he came to Chicago, D? Remember that story from the summer? Darren Bailey had a rally. I think it was spring. I think it was before the George Floyd murder. Good God, we've been in the pandemic for a long time. Mm-hmm. And they had the rally at Buckingham Fountain, and they weren't wearing masks. And police officers just said, all right, enough of this. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Remember that, D? And his speech was along the line that Chicago's like unruly child. Every now and then you have to discipline Chicago. Hey, there you go. That's a great campaign theme for the city of Chicago. I'm going to come to Chicago and give you a spanking. Ooh, I mean, there may be some people who enjoy that, but...
Oh, I heard he went to City Hall and put ketchup on a hot dog and showed it to everybody. Look at me, Chicago, huh? Take that.
Okay. If he were to have done that, there would be nothing wrong with that. If you like ketchup on your hot dog, feel free to put ketchup on your hot dog, okay? That's not this Chicago. They dibs. What's your position on dibs? That'll be the first. Well, they call me Dibs sometimes because I'm DB.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. That's cool. That's cool. Also, I think he was quoted in saying, yeah, the pizza's not that good anyway. Like, come on. Come on, Darren, but you're just being bitter.
I'll tell you what. Happiest man in the state of Illinois is Adam Kinzinger. He's like, all right, let's get a few more of these clowns in here. Divvy up that MAGA vote. I'm the nominee. So did you get Jeannie Ives in the race? Huh? What isn't there already? I forgot the dude, that Senator, what's his name?
Yeah, I was trying to think of that Senator's
Shrimp.
Oh, Detlef Shrimp. That's right. That's right. Detlef Shrimp.
Yeah, just think Detlef Shrimp, okay? There you go.
Paul Schimpf. Paul Schimpf is his name.
Paul Schimpf. You got Paul Schimpf. You got DB. You got Mr. Cow. Don't forget him. He's right. And somehow or other, Rob Blagojevich is trying to figure out a way he can run. I know it's against the law, but he's trying to figure it out.
So far, I got to say, I did call that Darren Bailey was going to run for governor, but my money's still on Mancow.
It's the butter cow, which has 9 hearts to represent the 9 essential nutrients in milk. That's right. It's made entirely out of butter, and it's a state fair tradition since at least 1922.
Whoa, did not know that.
Let's go to the live stream chat. They're weighing in here on the news of Darren Bailey. Let's see here. Brianna weighed in with the news here. It's a wrap. JB is governor until he decides to move on.
What, you're not impressed with the candidacy of Darren Big Boy DB Bailey? DB's going to win over that Chicago vote. Come here. I'm going to spank you. Whoa.
Also, in preparation to run against the richest politician in America, Darren Bailey is also accepting donations of $1 billion.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
Whatever you can do to help out.
Oh, you're going to need a few of those, DB. Gonna need a few of those. DB versus JB. Didn't think of that till now.
DB, JB, big feller. Oh, man, it's a battle of the big fellers.
Elbows flying. Right now, JB's throwing down. Come on, DB, how many vaccines have you had? Huh? Okay, I don't even have a Band-Aid. Come on. DB goes, I'm scared of needles. Oh, okay.
All right, and now to the story that won't go away. Same headline, different position. For the third, and I have a feeling not final time, Mike Madigan steps down. All right, now to recap as quickly as possible. 2020, Mike Madigan was the Speaker of the House. Happy New Year. Not anymore. He was voted out. But Madigan still had his state House seat. Not anymore. A few weeks later, he stepped down. But wait, Madigan is still head of the Democratic Party in Illinois. Not anymore. And my God, how many titles do you have, sir?
All right. I did a little calculation before the show, very brief. So I can't say with any degree of certainty that this is completely and totally accurate. So I humbly apologize for misleading anybody. I think he has 2 outstanding positions that he holds that he could still step down from. So we can have further updates. Well, breaking news, Mike Madigan has stepped down from his position as 13th Ward Democratic Committeeman. He's still that. And I believe he is still, unless he resigned this position yesterday as part of that maneuver where he stepped down as party chair, he is still the state Democratic Committeeman from, what would it be? The 3rd Congressional District. I think it's the 3rd Congressional District. Don't quote me on that, and have our staff researchers look it up. Frank. What I can't find out, D, is who was the state rep in the 22nd Legislative District before Michael Madigan. I looked it up on the internet, and Wikipedia had it wrong. How about that? They said it was Frank Savickas. It wasn't. He was a state senator. So I don't know. I don't know who it was. Who was and it's bothering me. I know this is a cry for help. He's only been the state rep since 1972. So, but I should know these things. I just feel like I should know who's the state rep before Michael Madigan. I should know that. It bothers me that I don't know that. Sorry, D. I'm just confessing to you right now. So
no worries. February 22nd. 2021 at 10:39 p.m. The Chicago Sun-Times and Rachel Hinton writes, in his latest handoff, Mike Madigan, the former Southwest Side powerhouse, announced Monday that he is stepping down as head of the Democratic Party of Illinois, just one day after telling reporters he had no idea when he would do so.
I know he did say that.
Beats me.
What a guy, Madigan. Still playing, still messing with the press corps. I don't know. That's something I'll decide somewhere down the road, meaning later tonight.
Yes, the resignation comes less than a week after Madigan stepped down from his Illinois House seat, and 6 weeks to the day since the beleaguered legislator gave up his bid to remain speaker. Ben, believe this or not, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. But a spokesman was not immediately available for comment on the situation.
A spokesman for Madigan?
Yeah.
Steve Brown, where are you, my man? He's like, I'm so tired of taking Madigan phone calls. No more. I'm not taking any more Madigan phone calls. I don't blame you, Steve.
The decision sets off a scramble to replace him, with U.S. Senator Dick Durbin backing U.S. Representative Robin Kelly for the post, and Governor J.B. Pritzker and U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth throwing their support behind 8th Ward Alderwoman Michelle Harris. Vice Chair Karen Yarbrough will be appointed as interim chair of the state party until a new chair is named. That is according to a statement announcing the resignation. And since we've done this 2 times already, you know what part comes next, guys. On to Mike Madigan's response. And I'm so glad Rachel Hinton added this sentence into this story, because for some reason, it's very easy for people to not recognize what's really going on here. Rachel Hinton writes, as he did in his other resignations, Madigan chose not to focus on the federal investigation driving it all. Instead, treating this departure as an occasion for a victory lap. All right, now let's hear from Madigan. Madigan says, over the last 2 decades, we have elected a diverse array of Democrats across Illinois and helped send a hometown Chicago leader to the White House, turning Illinois into a Democratic stronghold in the Midwest. Together, we faced conservative extremism and stood up for working men and women. I am confident the Democratic Party of Illinois will continue to cement our place as a beacon of progressive values. Madigan also thanked his family, saying his work, quote, would not have been possible without the support of his family, Shirley, Lisa, Tiffany, Nicole, and Andrew. I thank each of them for their unwavering love and support that has allowed me to do this work for so long. Ben, are you crying right now?
Yeah, I'm not crying. The only one crying is probably Lisa Madigan. Lisa Madigan, of course, of one of the kids that he mentioned in passing, used to be Attorney General of the state of Illinois, had great ambitions to be governor, would have probably be our governor, except Michael Madigan wouldn't step down as speaker then. Now he steps down with the Commonwealth Edison matter hovering over him. And by the way, only because those 18, wasn't it 18? Remember the bus gag we did for months? The 18 state reps who were on the wait, the dyslexia is kicking in. The bus was people who were going to drive over Madigan. Yes, who were on the bus. And they wouldn't budge from the bus. And so Madigan, he had to step down. He didn't have the votes. Give him credit. And I give him credit for this. At least he wasn't Donald Trump. You know, at least he didn't like start tweeting out. Can you imagine if Madigan started tweeting out derogatory things about Will Guzzardi and Ann Williams and Kelly Cassidy and all the other state reps who said they weren't going to vote for him, and started trashing them and get the committeemen in their districts to go against them. Although it is interesting that Casey, now that I think about it, Kelly Cassidy wanted to get promoted to state senator to fill a vacancy for Heather Staines. This is really inside baseball, ladies and gentlemen, and didn't get it after she rebelled against Madigan. Interesting, D. Interesting. Think about it.
Oh my God.
Interesting.
I never thought about it until right now.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it until right now either. The power of Madigan. Oh, you mess with me, Casey. I'll show you.
Oh my God, yeah. I recall that Madigan bus, by the way. Long gone. When's the bus coming? It's long gone, dude. It's long gone. I can't remember if I'm on the bus or off the bus. Feeling a little nostalgic about Michael Madigan. Wait, hold on. Wait, there's a bus. Ben, hold on. Wait. Oh, no, it's just the CTA. Never mind.
Hold on, and there it goes.
Oh, Brown line.
Replaced, by the way, with Edward Cadat, a man I never heard of until he replaced him as state rep. And this was Michael Madigan's choice. Very interesting little debate that took place on the south side of Chicago yesterday, southwest side of Chicago. Michael Joseph Madigan was stepping down as state rep. And as you all know, you've learned this from listening to this show, that a vacancy is filled by the committeeman in the district. And Michael Madigan had the most weighted votes, so he alone could determine who his successor would be. Aaron Ortiz and Alderwoman Silvano Tabares had different ideas. They didn't want Edward Cadat to be the state rep. I don't know if you follow this, D. So Alderwoman Tabares was grilling him with these questions, like for his positions on various policies. And this guy, he's a 26-year-old. He used to be I think it was like a ward. I don't know what he did. He worked for the city of Chicago, had some job with the city of Chicago. It's going to be a raise for him because he's going to be moving from, I think, $40,000 to about $67,000, something like that. And he was like saying, well, who's your favorite governor? And he goes, to be honest, I don't have one, which, you know, hey, he doesn't have a favorite governor. Trick question. That's like that question they ask candidates in debates. How much is a gallon of milk? And to show how, like, you know, in touch with the common man they're supposed to say. And D, I'm always like, you know, I'm really kind of a common man guy, but I have no idea what a gallon of milk costs because mostly my wife does the shopping. If I were to say that, oh my God, I would be destroyed as a candidate. His wife does the shopping? That sex is big. Plus, I just don't really pay attention. Oh, his head's in the cloud. He's an elitist and a snob. That's what they would say about me, D. By the way, do you know how much a gallon of milk costs, young man?
Who? Talking to me?
Plus, I always get mixed up. Hey, I'll let you off the hook.
Between like $2 to $3 usually.
So, wow, is that true? So then I'd be like, this is really embarrassing because this shows my lack of mathematical understanding. So they'd ask me, okay, candidate Jarofsky.
$3.50.
How much? No, not free. How much does a gallon of milk cost? And everybody would be looking, and I go, all right, now wait, which one is the gallon? Is it the big one or the little one? Because I get it mixed up. And they'd be go, oh my God, what a numbskull. But I would know who my favorite governor is. Henry Horner. Come on, everybody knows that. I just said Henry Horner. And then Alderwoman Tabares would have gone, who? See, I'm kind of weird. I don't know what a gallon of milk costs, but I know a lot about Illinois governors. It's really weird. I'm embarrassed. Anyway, so yeah, I think Michael Madigan took the guy who knew the least about Illinois politics and the Illinois government to be the new state rep of the 22nd district, just to let everybody know he's still the boss.
Oh, God, how gross. All right. Moving on to the news in the city of Chicago. Today, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was in City Hall at 9:30 a.m. for the signing of the Welcoming City Ordinance. The Welcoming City Ordinance eliminates exceptions that previously allowed police officers to work with federal immigration authorities under certain circumstances. Chicago City Council passed the latest update to the Welcoming City Ordinance by a vote of 41-8 in late January. Mayor Lightfoot signed the measure Tuesday. Previously, the Chicago Police Department was allowed to cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement if individuals were in the city's gang database, had an outstanding criminal warrant, had been convicted of a felony, or had a felony charge pending.
Yes. And this ordinance is otherwise known as the one campaign promise that Lori Lightfoot made good on. We talked a lot about this last week, Dee. We talked about how she's abandoned her support of an elected school board, and she's basically abandoned her support. We'll be discussing this with Maya Dukmasova in a little while, of a civilian oversight board. And she abandoned her campaign promise to get rid of the Lincoln Yards TIF, and she abandoned her campaign promise to be more transparent with city government, and she abandoned her campaign promise, to be more compassionate with the way people are treated when they have to deal with the cops. Anjanette Young is Exhibit A of that. And so this is the one campaign promise, apparently, she's keeping. So, hey, holy mackerel. Yeah, I'm glad I voted for her. See, she kept this promise. Ladies and gentlemen, what a mayor. What a mayor.
And finally, tonight at 7:30 p.m., Chicago Mayor Lightfoot headlines a fundraiser for LPAC, which supports LGBTQ candidates. Cubs co-owner Laura Ricketts and real estate investor Jennifer Pritzker are hosts.
A lot of money will be raised at that. I'm sure not one seriously progressive candidate will receive any. Maybe Kelly Cassidy will get a little money out of that, and I don't know. Maybe some Northside pals will get some money out of that. But I just have noticed, D, more and more the growing rift between the left and the Dems in the state of Illinois, particularly in the city of Chicago, and it's very noticeable right now in the city hall. We see that all the time, where Mayor Lori Lightfoot has essentially waged political war against the Chicago Teachers Union. And now the Sun-Times also championing the notion that we give all the power. I don't know if you saw that in today's editorial, all the power over civilian oversight, all the power over the police to the mayor. The mayor must wear the jacket is the argument. That's such a classic Chicago argument. All power must be centralized in one person. Otherwise, what? Chicago will slide into Lake Michigan. Sears Tower will jump into the lake. I can't think of any examples of having an all-powerful mayor that's really worked well for Chicago. But that's just the prevailing wisdom in Chicago. That's the mentality of Chicago. It was like as soon as Harold Washington died, the powers that be in this city said, we're not going to let that happen again. So all-powerful, right down the center mayors who are anti-union when it comes to teachers and do not believe in any kinds of democratic elections. That's what the powers that be in the city of Chicago want, because somehow or other, to them, that means order. Even if the mayors take that power to do really stupid things like selling the parking meters for a fraction of what they're worth. Anyway, D.
All right. That's our local news, everybody. Remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, like the bonus interviews that we posted over the weekend. You can go check those out right now, chicagoreader.com, wherever else you download podcasts. Over 900 episodes of this show, people. Go catch up on some shows that you may have missed. You can reach us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. If you want us to read your email on the program, leave your name and where you're from. Very helpful. Also, you can call the Ben Joravsky Show. It's true. We have a phone number, 708-658-4788. The number again is 708-658-4788. We would love to hear from you. Also, become a Benhead, all right? We're getting a little campaign going here. Help out the Ben Joravsky Show. Become a Benhead. Subscribe. Go to chicagoreader.com/Joravsky for more information, all right? You can always do that. And coming up, Ben's Greatest Hits book. Ben, how long did it take you to put this book together?
Took me too long. And a lot of angst in putting this book together. A lot of columns and articles I had to go through. And I kept changing like the theme of it. And my life's an open book anyway. But in some ways it was a labor of love, and in other ways it just got to be. By the way, breaking news: Tiger Woods hurt in a one-car rollover crash. It's just like popped on my screen right now. Breaking news: Tiger Woods. They had to extricate him from the car. Man, poor Tiger. Anyway, it was a lot of work, and it was in some ways it was enjoyable going back and reading those articles. And you know what? I was thinking of this with Neera Tanden. I talked about Neera Tanden at the outset, and Neera Tanden, of course, one more time, is the Biden's nominee for the Office of Budget Management, who probably won't get the gig because her tweets are really embarrassing, and she went back and erased the offensive tweets, which I'm sorry. If you make them, keep them, unless they're really, really offensive and you're horrifically embarrassed. And then in which case you have to confront what you wrote in a very realistic way. But just to erase them because they're politically inconvenient for where you are right now, even if you still believe them, like she said that vampires have a bigger heart than Ted Cruz. I would love for her to address that question. Do you think vampires have a bigger heart than Ted Cruz? I know it's a metaphor, but you're saying that he's heartless. Do you stand by that? Well, considering the fact that he just ditched all of Texas and hightailed down for Cancun in Mexico to hang out on a beach and drink margaritas while everybody else is freezing in his home state, I'd say that's a pretty heartless act. And she should have the guts to stand up and defend it. And if she loses, she loses. But it's just something about it that's so weaselly about getting rid of the tweets. You know what I'm saying? Because now they're problematic for you. Your career may be offended. Your career may be damaged by something you wrote 6 months ago, which you now claim you don't believe in. Wow, that's fast. You just overnight, as soon as your nomination was in trouble, you threw out the window everything you believed in, to your heart of hearts. Just a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? So I had lots of issues, and that's kind of what I was confronting, D. I'd be reading some article I wrote in 1985 or 86 or 87, like, oh. I don't know if this would stand up by 2021. God.
Oh, yes. Whoa. 40 years, guys. I'm 37 years old, and you can read the 40 years of Ben Joravsky's career with his greatest hits. Go check it out, everybody. For more information, chicagoreader.com/Joravsky. If you become a Benhead, rumor has it you get a little bit of a deal on that Chicago Reader Greatest Hits book from our very own Ben Joravsky. Just saying, go check it out, chicagoreader.com/Joravsky. All right, Ben, the time has come. We send an email to our guest, and we see if they respond. How you feeling? Maya Dukmasova's coming up very shortly. Ben, how you feeling about it, Maya? You think she's going to respond here very soon?
Yeah, Maya's pretty good about this.
Maya's
pretty good. A lot of our guests are kind of, I'm not saying it's a generational thing, I'm not saying it's I actually do not believe the whole email trip is something else. Like, people don't look at their email. That's something I've just. And
by the way, talking about tweet and delete, don't have to worry about that with Ben Joravsky. He does not complete a tweet, let alone delete a tweet. So,
by the way, I just want to say that yes, there were a sentence here, a sentence there that maybe I would not write in 2021, but I did not delete them, D. I did not delete them. I said, you know what? Let the chips fall where they may. I wrote it. It's there. It's part of the record. What can I say? To quote Boz Skaggs. So, yeah, there was something. I'm like, oh, my God, I wrote that.
Oh, my God. Elton Brand will be the next Chicago Bull of the future. Oh, my God. I can't believe I wrote that.
Oh, my God, D. My writing career goes so far back before Elton Brand. Elton Brand was like midpoint. This is the midpoint. Listeners are like, who the hell is Elton Brand? Elton Brand was the midpoint, the number one draft choice for the Chicago Bulls in 1999. Elton Brand, a one-year center out of Duke University. By then, D, I had already been working for 18 years in the city of Chicago. So you could say that was the midpoint of my career as a writer here in town.
All right, everybody. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, Maya Dukmasova, she's going to be here. Do not worry. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. We are live from my apartment in Ben's attic. And there she is. Hang tight, everybody.
Big problems.
This little light of mine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine.
Big problems.
How did you go from sharing stories of How did you go from sharing stories over the years to deciding to write a book?
Good question, Mayor. Good question.
That is correct. That is correct.
How did you
All right. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor, and the Chicago Reader. Benny J, take it away.
My partner in crime, Maya Dukmasova, has joined us. My partner in crime at the Chicago Reader, at the Chicago Readers Union, at First Tuesday, and my inspiration for railing against that really softball interview that Lori Lightfoot did with Hillary Clinton. Maya, we talk about it all the time. You came into the studio that day. You're like, can you believe that interview?
I lost it.
Yes, you did lose. I love it when Maya loses. It's like a guitar riff by a great Jimi Hendrix will follow with a lot of reverb. No, just so people know, no virtual First Tuesday for the month of March. Maya
Have
and
we got a show for you in April? Oh man, people better get ready. April 6th, don't make evening plans. I guess we can tell them what's happening.
Take guess out and do.
We've got Anjanette Young and Chaparral Wells who are coming to join us on the show. We're going to talk to them about just the process of going from kind of basically being a victim of police misconduct. Chaparral's son was killed by police. Well, was shot, and then ended up in front of a police station, and officers did not render him aid fast enough, and he died on the way to the hospital, and they still haven't solved his murder, even though Chaparral pretty much has, by teaming up with the Invisible Institute and getting a lot of records from the city, and they ended up making a podcast about it, actually. But yeah, she was just an ordinary person, a mom whose son died in a really tragic way, and apparently possibly wouldn't have died if the police had rendered aid as soon as they came into contact with him, instead of treating him like a suspect. Anyway, so she's been kind of thrust into this kind of spotlight about police accountability issues, and a similar thing, of course, has happened with Miss Anjanette Young who was the victim of that botched raid the CBS first reported about in December, I believe. So it'll be great to have both of them on the show in conversation. I think, obviously people will learn more about their particular situations, but also I think it's interesting to hear from folks who weren't really necessarily engaged in being part of some kind of movement before becoming, coming face to face with kind of overreach and lack of transparency and unpunished misconduct by police. So I'll be very curious to hear what they have to share, to hear them in conversations with one another, to see, what they're working on now and how they're faring. So I think it'll be a great conversation. So bookmark on your calendar, evening of April 6th.
Yeah, that's Anjanette Young. That, of course, was an eye-opening raid, and Lori Lightfoot's response, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for Maya, really, I've not gotten over that. I got to tell you, I voted for Mayor Lori Lightfoot. I say that on the show many times. And in part, I voted for her because of her performance at the Hideout when she was on stage with Mick Dumke and myself. This is before Maya took over for Mick at First Tuesday. She said absolutely everything he wanted somebody to say in terms as a progressive. And now I have the feeling that she was just saying it to check us off the list, seeing us as a bunch of dummies who would believe anything she said. But there was one crucial moment at that First Tuesday show where someone from the audience asked Lori Lightfoot a question about her demeanor on the police board in regards to some of the cases that came before her. And
yeah,
Lori Lightfoot,
the Rakia Boyd situation, especially with the officer Dante Servin.
Excellent memory by Maya Dukmasova. And Lori's response was that because that was a quasi-judicial body, she had to have a stone face and show no sympathy one way or another, because the Fraternal Order police lawyers were watching her and they would condemn her for showing a bias if she showed any sympathy. That was her response. And I see that same stone cold, heartless face on display with Anjanette Young when she turned on reporters who dared to criticize her at that press conference. So it really was a defining moment, I think, in the first the end of that second year of Lori Lightfoot's time in office, the way she handled the Anjanette Young case, and be really interested to hear what Anjanette Young and her attorney have to say. So I'm looking forward to that on April 6th. All right, lots of police news to talk about, Maya, and I've got 4 matters in front of me. I could start with any of them, but why don't we just start with $281.5 million of COVID money. The story broke last week. We talked a lot about it on the show. Going to the cops. Go ahead, take it away.
All of these stories that we're about to talk about really incredibly broke within like 24 hours at the end of last week, and I was tweeting about it. It's actually the first time I think I had some viral tweets, so I feel like maybe a lot of people listening already kind of have caught up on the basics, but just to reiterate, first, it came to light that the city, which received $1.2 billion in COVID relief and had 403 million of that 1.2 billion, 403 million were supposed to be discretionary funds. So some of the COVID relief money came kind of earmarked for very specific purposes, and other money was given to municipalities to dispense as they saw fit to deal with the crisis. So of that $403 million of discretionary money, we found out that 281 million of that went to the Chicago Police Department. By comparison, the Department of Public Health got 18 million. The Office of Emergency Management got 8 million. The Department of Family and Support Services got 200,000. And the Office for People with Disabilities only got $2,000. And the city didn't even spend $68 million that they had to spend. Meanwhile, they only gave rental assistance when the lockdown first hit and people could apply for grants from the city. Something like, they gave 2,000. They gave 2,000 of those grants. So people were pretty outraged to learn that something like 60% of the discretionary money went to the police department. So that was the first thing that broke at the end of last week. Then shortly after that, the Office of the Inspector General releases a report about how the Chicago Police Department handled the protests and unrest that came about after George Floyd was killed this summer. So there was a pretty scathing report in which basically Joe Ferguson's office documented how they were stonewalled to get records about the police response, to get emails from top brass related to the police response to the protests. Some of the records about that were like emails from very high up people, right below the superintendent, like the deputy superintendent, first deputy superintendent, and some other bosses. CPD and the city did not release those records to the Inspector General until after those bosses retired. So they were waiting for months for these records, and some of them they didn't get until they completed most of their investigation, didn't have a chance to ask the people who retired questions based on what was in those emails. So it was a lot of foot dragging and stonewalling on the part of the city. And one of the most remarkable things in there was that when Joe Ferguson interviewed Lori Lightfoot about all this, one of the things she said was that like the unrest that developed alongside the protest was basically, she made it sound like it was like part of a conspiracy to destroy American cities, which to sow chaos in cities across the country, that it was like a coordinated attack, essentially. So that also generated a lot of disbelief and anger amongst people to hear her characterize what happened in that way. Some of the other things that the Inspector General found was basically that like the response was, the police response was like totally disorganized. They were unprepared. They didn't keep, so the mass arrest process was like just a free-for-all. They didn't keep proper records about officer use of force as they're supposed to over the course of the protest days. And there were just a lot of obstacles to holding folks accountable that were put in place. And then finally on Friday, the City Council Public Safety Committee was supposed to have a meeting that would have advanced two new ordinances that were sort of a combined CPAC and GAPA ordinances. So for those who might not remember, there are these two kind of coalitions of community groups and organizers and activists pushing for two different versions of a civilian control over the police department, which would include which would basically lead to taking power out of the mayor's hands when it comes to like a final say over police department policy, over hiring and firing the superintendent, and other issues. So GAPA is the Grassroots Alliance for Police Accountability. They haven't been around that long, but when Lori Lightfoot was running, she kind of stood by that coalition and promised that she would implement their vision of police reform within the first 100 days. So that did not happen. And in fact, I wrote about this last summer, but she basically, once the protest started, she totally walked away from the negotiating table with the GAPA Alliance folks, and no ordinance was ever introduced, and the communication with the mayor's office totally stopped. Meanwhile, CPAC, Civilian Police Accountability Council, that's a measure that was first developed and has been pushed for many, many years by the Chicago Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression. So those folks have been around for a very long time. They've had a tremendous amount of popular support for their proposal. They've had like tens and tens of thousands of people sign petitions for their version of civilian control over the police and police accountability structure. I mean, they were out there like since before the Laquan McDonald scandal, basically. But I started seeing a lot of them after the Laquan McDonald scandal, and once the DOJ showed up in Chicago to evaluate civil rights abuses in the police department. So they've really been, I mean, when the protests were happening this summer, overwhelmingly the rallying cry on the streets, on the signs that you would see out at the protests, were in favor of CPAC. So CPAC people have historically sort of said that the GAPA version of the police accountability structure is sort of a watered down version of what they want. But so after the mayor kind of disengaged from working with the GAPA folks who helped elect her and on whose platform she partially ran, the two camps, the CPAC and GAPA people, came together and actually worked out like these two ordinances that would combine, they were, when I heard Carlos Ramirez Rosa, the alderman, speak about this on Friday, the way he put it was that they started out their conversation being like really far apart on 11 different key sticking points. And then by Friday, they were like, they only had 1.5 more issues to resolve between of them, basically. So a huge amount of work and time was put in to negotiate something that would be, that both coalitions could get behind. They had 40 aldermen on board to vote for this. And what was supposed to happen was there was supposed to be a committee hearing on Friday in the Public Safety Committee to then vote and advance this measure to the City Council. There's 19 members of the Public Safety Committee, and 12 of them were on board to vote for this, and you only need half of them to say yes to go to a floor vote on City Council, which would have been tomorrow. And they had 40 aldermen basically on board for all of this, so this would have passed tomorrow. So apparently, Lori Lightfoot convinced Alderman Chris Taliaferro, who's her handpicked chair of the Public Safety Committee, to cancel this meeting on Friday, which means that then, now the whole process of advancing the measures to City Council is interrupted. She wanted him to cancel the meeting, and she wants to propose her own police accountability ordinance, which she's promising she'll be able to do in a month. Which is crazy because the GAPA and the CPAC people and the GAPA people have been working on this for years. Have been working on this with experts, with advocates, with community representatives, with lawyers for years and years and years. And then they spent months together to hammer something out that would work for everybody, to make compromises that people were willing to make. And now the mayor is claiming she's going to have something to propose within a month. So apparently there's a kind of a process in City Council, like procedural rules or whatever, that a committee, if the chairman of a committee cancels a meeting, the members of the committee can still hold their meeting and take whatever action they want to take if they have more than half of the members on board to proceed with the meeting. So it has to be, I believe that the meeting does still have to happen 3 days before a full City Council hearing on a measure. So maybe they just didn't have enough time. I'm not really sure what happened. I didn't see any move by any of the aldermen on the Public Safety Committee to say, you know what, screw this, like we're going to hold this meeting anyway, despite what the chairman has decided. Maybe there wasn't enough time for them to do it. Maybe they, even though they had plenty of people on board for the ordinances, they weren't about to say fuck you to the mayor and still hold their meeting. But suffice it to say, there's lots of skepticism about whether the mayor is going to be able to craft any kind of real police overhaul ordinance within a month. And the interesting thing too is that, I'm very curious to see what will happen tomorrow at the City Council meeting, because I don't think this is just going to disappear.
All right, you've given us a lot to unpack. And let's deal with the first item you mentioned and the third item, because the second one, how the cops dealt with the unrest of late May and early June, is sort of in a different category. But as I see it, I wrote a column about this for this week's Reader about the discretionary money. As I see it, the central issue in Lori Lightfoot spending the 281.5, I think that's what it was, million on police as opposed to pandemic-related matters, and her opposition to either the CPAC or the GAPA proposals for civilian oversight has to do with power, her power, mayoral authority. And each case, she controls policies and money. And on the first matter, she's got to figure out, I can just see how they're thinking it, Maya, how to balance their budget or pay their bills So she's got this discretionary money coming in to fight the COVID. Forget the COVID. Forget people who are struggling with rent. Forget people who are struggling with utilities. Forget businesses that may need a little help staying open. I got to pay that police bill, spend it on the police. And it is, I have to say this, an example of what Republicans were complaining about in regards to Pritzker. Like if you give too much authority to the chief executive officer, that chief executive officer becomes essentially like an emperor. So it's like Emperor Lightfoot, not Mayor Lightfoot. And I still believe that a mayor needs a checks and a balance. There's many things that upset me about the $281 million, not the least of which is the lack of transparency, et cetera. But that, to me, too much mayoral authority is on display. Your views on that matter?
Yeah, I think that's totally true. I think also in a way, like, okay, some of what I've seen out there was that, like, you know, this money mostly went to pay police overtime, which was incurred as a result of all the demonstrations and stuff out there. Which, like, if you didn't have such a heavy police response in the first place, maybe you'd have to pay less of an overtime bill. But even if all of that $281 million going to the police department was in any way like legitimate and non-negotiable and just like the only option, there was $68 million that went unspent. And the Office for People with Disabilities got $2,000. It boggles the mind. And I think that also it's interesting to see the mayor put so much kind of be in these continuous public fights with the teachers union, and you know, talking about how the teachers union is like hurting the kids and obstructing, you know, the kind of educational mandate of the government and all this other stuff. But like, the teachers union has been fighting to get vulnerable people vaccinated before they have to teach in person, fighting basically for measures that aren't just about their own safety and comfort, but for the entire city, like the families of the students, the families of the people who work inside school buildings. Meanwhile, something like 40% of the police department who was polled, the police officers who were polled, said that they would even take the vaccine. So, and throughout the summer and the fall, I feel like there was a constant attention on the fact that, like, police officers weren't wearing masks, that, like, there was I mean, I saw this myself plenty of times out on the street. I had like 2 or 3 encounters with cops throughout the summer and fall for various unrelated reasons. People weren't wearing masks. So it's kind of strange that, like, the police union, you know, is like, it kind of, you know, there's so much to be said about the leadership of the police union and their excuses for the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th and general kind of right-wing stances on everything, and feeding into a lot of this kind of like culture war stuff about, you know, that results in like anti-mask protests and all this other stuff. So you've got like an institution filled with people and filled with leaders who display so much disdain for the city, and also just like so much resistance to doing things that will make people safer. And those folks get $281 million. And, you know, like, the teachers have to threaten going on strike to get proper PPE and testing in schools. It just doesn't make any sense.
You know, I wasn't going to mention this, but I have to say this. There was an article in today's Bright One, Sun-Times, that talked about how Mayor Lightfoot and Janice Jackson and reserving the right to fire any teacher that doesn't get a vaccination, which I on so many levels, I found it such a preposterous policy for Lightfoot and Jackson to take, because the teachers union was saying, it was just like 3 weeks ago, the teachers union was saying, let's hold off opening the schools until we have more vaccinations. The mayor was saying, doesn't really matter. It's safe to open the schools now. The science shows it's safe. We won't be able to get you the vaccinations until like mid-February. Lord knows when they're actually going to start on rolling out those vaccinations. And then at a real clip. And now all of a sudden they're turning around and saying, oh, by the way, we're giving you a mandate. You have to have the vaccination. I'm not discussing whether the mandate is right or not. It's just such a weird, bizarre reversal from going from you don't have to have the vaccine, let's open the schools anyway, to we're giving you a mandate that you have to have it or we'll fire you, to, by the way, looking the other way at that poll. I think it was a poll that you're alluded to. What was it, that 60% of the police department said they would get vaccinated and 40% said they weren't sure about it? I can't remember. I have the reversal. My dyslexia is kicking in, which part of it. But the point is like, it just underscores the point you're making about sort of the different way the city of Chicago approaches teachers and cops. Go ahead, Maya.
Yeah. So just to clarify it for folks, this was Patrick Smith reporting on WBZ about this. Less than 40% of Chicago Police Department employees said yes to a department survey asking if they wish to receive the vaccine. Yeah. Less than 40% of them said that they wish to receive the vaccine.
40. So I had the right 60%. Wow. I mean, just to shows you, it's just like this, like, this is part of the problem going way, way back. Just like the city's attitude toward police, the official city's attitude toward police, that is just embedded in the relationships. Pete Cunningham talked about this when he was at the Hideout with us a couple months ago. He talks about it when he comes on the show. He was the Mayor Daley's legislative, or not legislative aide, but what his speechwriters, one of his PR guys, and he has said this on this show, that Mayor Daley, Richard M. Daley, was afraid of the police department. He didn't want to confront it. And you see that throughout Mayor Daley's career, going back to how he buried evidence, looked the other way about John Burge torture cases that when he was state's attorney, he should have been addressing. And this is the same old, Maya, here in the city of Chicago, in regards to Lori Lightfoot.
And today, you know, there was another thing that kind of another cherry on top of this delightful Sunday is that, remember the Charles Green case? So Charles Green, for those who might need a refresher, Charles Green is a guy who was convicted of murder when he was 16 years old. They convicted him of participating in like a triple or quadruple homicide, where allegedly his role was to ring the doorbell or knock on the door of the victim's home so that it would be opened, and then the people who actually did the killing would enter. So he was wrongfully convicted and released after 24 years. He was released like in 2014. So this guy served 24 years in prison. There was basically, you know, he was told by the cops that if he cooperated and confessed that he would get to go see his mom. So they like extracted a confession out of him in a wrongful manner. So when he got out of prison, he wanted to prove his innocence, because he got out basically on some, I'm not going to get into the technical legal issues of this, but he wasn't like exonerated and his conviction kind of, thrown out and his name cleared. In order for him to clear his name, he wanted to actually prove that there was police misconduct related to his case. And so he filed a FOIA request for police misconduct records for all cops, all Chicago police officers going back to 1967. Now, this is a very broad request, and the police department would have been totally within their right to say, like, this is unduly burdensome. You have to narrow the scope of your request. You have to, like, ask it in a different way. This is normally what would happen if you filed a request that was so general. But they just didn't even respond to him. They didn't respond to him, and so Mr. Green got a lawyer, and they filed a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act lawsuit against the department, which the city lost. the circuit court judge that was on this case found that they had violated the FOIA law and they had to turn over the records. Now, after this ruling by the circuit court judge, the city decided they would offer Mr. Green a settlement. And I wrote about this back in July. They basically said, we'll give you $500,000 and in return, you drop all your claims to these records and we don't have to release them. So Mr. Green had agreed to the settlement. I mean, this guy is still on paper like a convicted felon. He's got, he's basically a poor guy in poor health. So he's not in a position to turn out that much money from the city. And in order for the settlement to go through, though, the city council has to approve it, as we all know. All these misconduct settlements, all of these things have to be signed off of on the city council. And some aldermen raised some questions about the settlement, and they felt like the city was basically trying to pay this guy some hush money to not release these records. So they demanded that there be some kind of they wanted to vote no on the settlement, not because they wanted to not pay Mr. Green, but because they felt like the city should not have gotten out of handing over these records. And so a bunch of civil rights groups got involved, the Invisible Institute, and with the record, like the Invisible Institute was going to incorporate all of these records. Technically, these records are already public because they're subject to FOIA. But if they had been released en masse, they could become part of like an online database that would be really easy to access for anybody, to look up the history of any police officer. So this is something the Invisible Institute has already been working on for years, and they have kind of a partial version of this on the Citizens Police Data Project. So Scott Waguespack, Mayor Lawyer Lightfoot's hand-picked chair of the Finance Committee, which is supposed to approve these settlements, he said, okay, we're not going to vote on this settlement now. He said this back in July. But we instead are going to, I'm going to introduce an ordinance in order to make the city release these records anyway, and then we can vote yes on the settlement, and Mr. Green can get this money, and we'll also release the records on our own. So he had promised to introduce this ordinance in September. That did not happen. And Jamie Calvin just today published an op-ed, or actually yesterday, about what's been happening with this. So a draft was circulated. Waguespack did circulate some kind of draft of this ordinance that Jamie Calvin writes was kind of weak, but it kind of started the conversation. But basically no more conversation happened after that. And on top of that, the city was still fighting the circuit court judge's decision that they had to release the records to Green, because the settlement was like on the table, but until it's approved, it's not really real. So the case can still be appealed. So they kept fighting. They kept preparing to for their appeal in the appellate court. And after that city council meeting in which the settlement was not voted on, they also cut off conversations with Mr. Green and his attorney and withdrew their offer of the settlement, saying that it was only valid if it was approved by the July city council meeting. And I spoke with Mr. Green's attorney last week, who told me they stopped communicating with them once he started added Craig Futterman to their team, who was a civil rights lawyer and the professor at the University of Chicago Law School and a very well-known figure in kind of issues of civil rights and transparency around the police in the city. So Mr. Green's lawyer decided to add Craig Futterman to his team, and after that, the city stopped talking to them altogether. So we still don't have all these records released. Mr. Green doesn't have any money from this, no money from the city anyway, and there's no apparent process or timeline about what's supposed to be happening with this ordinance that Scott Waguespack promised. And then some reporter called him about it within the last few days, and now suddenly on Thursday there's supposed to be some kind of hearing on this ordinance that no one has seen, that hasn't been talked about for months.
Yeah, and I think when I listened to that recitation, and I did read that essay by Jamie Calvin that was in today's Tribune, Maya, what I hear one more time is a very aggressive stance taken by the law department under Lori Lightfoot. And this is characteristic of Lori Lightfoot's reign. And this was really the problem with the way the city handled Anjanette Young. If you recall, the initial reaction from Lori Lightfoot to Anjanette Young is that the city had done nothing wrong and that the city was going to vigorously contest the matter and that she would have no comment on it. Then when it became a public relations debacle and folks really absorbed what that video showed of Anjanette Young naked being confronted by all those male cops, Lori Lightfoot did a 180. And suddenly she invited Anjanette Young to her office. Oh my God, I'm really concerned about how police treat civilians. But the reality is that Lori Lightfoot clearly, this is me speaking, not Maya, Lori Lightfoot is still very much in the mindset of a corporate lawyer. And a corporate lawyer who's used to winning, a corporate lawyer who's used to somebody, a client who has a lot of money. And so therefore she is free to just drag the matter out as long as she can, bleeding the opposition. This is basic 101 of corporate law strategy, Maya. And I just feel as though that's how Lori approaches, Mayor Lightfoot, that's how she approaches these cases that come against the city. She's not thinking in terms of police reform. She's not thinking in terms of the Anjanette Young or another person who's complaining about being abused by Chicago police officers. She's thinking about her client, the city of Chicago, and how she can win the case. And so she'll drag it on as long as she can. It's that same sort of hostile, aggressive attitude. Your thoughts?
I mean, I think I think there's also political calculations that are happening, because she clearly, I mean, part of it, I think, yeah, she's probably is a true believer in terms of like having strong law enforcement and other kinds of, powers that the police have in our city. I think that as a person with a background in law enforcement, she probably has some genuine commitments in that sphere. But I also feel like, she probably feels that being too hard on the police is gonna cost her more politically than not. I think I get the impression that she really doesn't take seriously the sort of social media, youth-led activism and kind of drumbeat around these issues that mostly right now is manifesting itself online. But I guess it's kind of curious, because that same kind of energy and that same kind of organizing and activism that was very loud online was a huge reason for why Anita Alvarez lost her seat. Anita Alvarez was voted out of office in huge part due to this big mobilization after the Laquan McDonald scandal. But it wasn't just that everyone saw this tape on TV and people in the city and in the suburbs, were like, this prosecutor has to go. There was really powerful and effective organizing against Anita Alvarez, led by young people. And I can see so much of the same kind of energy growing against Lori. And I just don't know, I'm sure that she just has very mainline political consultants and media strategists and folks who are going to tell her, look, the people in the cop neighborhoods vote, and you need to make sure that they're not too pissed at you. And I don't know, it just seems like a real underestimation for how bad it makes her look to be on the side of the cops.
Well, there is that point.
Look, I don't know. I don't live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of pro-police sentiment. This may be. There's a lot of people that live in neighborhoods that are underprotected by the police, where there's a lot of kind of, war on drugs style policing and stop and frisk style stuff, and a lot of kind of antagonistic relationships between the police and young people, but where older people who are more reliable voters are saying, we need more police, we don't have enough police protection, crime is out of control. So I think she's banking on brownie points with people with that line of thinking. But I don't know, man. How is it okay to not spend $68 million of these discretionary COVID funds while spending $281 million on police and barely giving any money to agencies that are doing like direct support to people who've lost their jobs, who are at risk of losing their homes, and who need health care?
Well, clearly, the prevailing wisdom in the city of Chicago underscores the point you just made, Maya. And that is that you will not win as mayor of the city of Chicago if you're appealing to young activists. You're just not going to win. They don't vote. They're not politically sophisticated. Their own parents probably don't agree with them. This is the prevailing wisdom in the city of Chicago, and it has been the prevailing wisdom really for the last forever, but really over the last 10 years. And you're absolutely correct when you point out that Anita Alvarez lost her job as a result of a political fallout to Laquan McDonald. I would argue that so did Rahm Emanuel. I would argue that Rahm Emanuel is tarnished now. He's a pariah to the Democratic Party. Joe Biden is trying to figure out how to get him some kind of job, because apparently he just wants to feed Rahm's ego. So I guess they're going to make him envoy to China or something like that. Get him as far away from Chicago as they possibly can. But I believe it's a miscalculation politically, ultimately, to so blatantly backtrack on where you were as a candidate. And this is what I've been thinking more and more about. Lori Lightfoot breaking one promise after another. It's 2 years. I've watched her for 2 years now, and I give her this, Maya. I give her this. Clearly, no one was expecting the pandemic, so that threw a curveball. But even as you're talking about, the $281 million in discretionary funds going to the police, as opposed to all these other services. And effectively her defense, I don't know if you followed her defense was dismissed as dumb, that's her word, the people who objected, on the grounds that I just saved the taxpayers a property tax hike, because I would have had to found that $281 million by raising everyone's taxes. Again, to your point, she has clearly decided that politically it's advantageous for her to appeal to people who want police and are willing to pay for police and don't care if it comes at the expense of some poor guy who can't pay his rent. And so, again, it's politically backtracking from where she was as a candidate in 2019. And I think you're right. I think that's the conventional wisdom that most political strategists in this town have. And it's a conventional wisdom that she's abiding by as she heads off into we're about a year out from that election kicking in. Just think about that for a moment. So that's, I think you're correct, Maya. I think a political calculation has been made by Lori Lightfoot.
Yeah. And I'll just be interested to see what happens at city council tomorrow, how, if she's gonna lose more friends than she gains as a result of this move with the canceling this public safety committee hearing. I mean, it is mind-boggling to me that they got 40 aldermen on board for this. I don't know what issue, for police reform, for civilian oversight over the police, that's a really big deal. I mean, people some people predictably who were not on board were the Northwest Side aldermen, Napolitano, Sposato, Nugent, Raboiras, these people who were themselves connected to, either were firefighters or police officers and are generally have very pro-police constituents. You wouldn't expect them to be behind this, but people some of the people, there were lots of aldermen from Black neighborhoods that were not on board, for example, with the No Cop Academy movement, mean, Emma Mitz is on board with this. You know, that's saying something. If people like, Matt Martin and Rossana Rodriguez Sanchez and Emma Mitz are on the same page about something. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who she's alienating more and more people on city council, and it's just hard for me to imagine that, how she's gonna propose some other ordinance that is gonna be seen as like a credible step towards meaningful police reform.
All right. Well, presumably something will have broken on this front before our April virtual First Tuesday, when we'll be discussing this and other issues. So Maya, thank you very much. Good job as always. Stay safe and sound. We'll talk to you real soon. All right.
Bye, guys.
All right. That's great. Maya Dukmasova. Do you got any updates for me before we head out that door?
You know what? I do not, because you have a show to prepare for. Isn't that right? You're going to be on another show today.
I was so into a conversation with Maya that I completely forgot. Dude, that's focus. Wait, my focus sound is
zeroing in. Yeah. There it is. That's zeroing in.
Yep. And I was zeroed in on Maya in that discussion. A lot of police news that she was breaking down, a lot of fascinating power plays going on by Mayor Lori Lightfoot as she figures out, what she wants to do as a quote unquote reformer and what she wants to do as an all powerful mayor. And she's deciding that reform thing is overrated. So I was zeroed in on that, and I forgot that I will be a guest on the Heartland Mamas.
That's right.
Podcast.
That's right.
Murray Briel and Heidi Henry pulled the reversal on me. That's the reversal on me. Then instead of them being a guest on my podcast, I will be a guest on their podcast, and they're going to grill me like a big tuna.
There you go. There you go.
All questions from Heidi and Murray.
Yeah, usually when the Heartland Mamas come on the program, they're kind of the fish out of water. I believe you call where they're from the boonies. So, how the table has turned.
Wait, what did you say?
How the tables have turned.
Yeah. Well, they're going to make fun of...
Hey, you're the city slicker.
Yeah, the city's... Hold on. It's just the COVID kicking in.
Oh, geez. That is not funny.
They're going to make fun of the porta potty. And no, they're going to... You know what they're going to probably do is give me a hard time about Adam Kinzinger. And I saw this. I think Shia Kapos had this, but don't quote me, D, because I read so many things this morning. But I think it was Shia Kapos and Politico. Adam Kinzinger is hired as one of his political aides, a young fella who worked with Phyllis on the anti-fair tax campaign. So just in case there's anyone remotely progressive out there who think Adam Kinzinger is like on their side on the issues, I still appreciate the fact that he took a stand against fascism. Okay, I really do. I'm not kidding. I absolutely appreciate that, as much as Heidi likes to tease me about it. But he let it be known where his allegiances are. He took this kid, I can't remember the guy's name, and who had been working on the anti-fair tax campaign. Real tough campaign to win. Just get Phyllis go make some stuff up about retirees' income, and there went the Northwest and Southwest side vote, D.
Yes, city hipster Ben will be joining the Heartland Mamas podcast. It's going to be on Facebook, I believe, Facebook Live. Find the Heartland Mamas. Ben's going to be talking with reoccurring guests, Heidi Henry, Murray Briel, and I don't know, you may have to listen. Possibly, maybe, not really, Phyllis.
Springfield politicians. They promise they won't tax retirement income if their constitutional amendment passes.
Let's just see if we can go the whole year just still playing Phyllis.
Oh, come on.
That shelf life on Phyllis, that's getting pretty good.
Philly, she took the hits for the team. She goes, don't worry, guys. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of that fair tax. Give me the ball. Phyllis is like Zach LaVine on the Bulls. Give me the ball. It's the end of the game. Okay? Give me the ball. And so Kenny G says, here's the ball, Phyllis. Kenny G underwrote all those commercials.
Phyllis is like Zach LaVine of the Bulls. Yeah, right. You're like Zach LaVine of the Bulls, man. You're good.
Me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like the greatest compliment because Zach Attack is the man. But we've abandoned this show and talking about Bulls basketball unless it's a very special segment. And I should have it with the All-Star game coming up. I should reach out to Joe Colley or Miles Porter or Benji the bookie or to get him back on the show, talk a little. Come on, D. Come on, man.
All right, that's enough sports talk for the day, all right?
All right.
Hey, here's the ball. Take a shot. What you got, Benny? Oh, you missed.
Oh, sorry.
But anyway, go check it out. Heartland Mamas. Go find them on Facebook. Ben's going to be joining them. They may be doing it live. So you know how Ben rolls live. Anything can go, baby. So go check it out. Heartland Mamas, Murray Breel, Heidi Henry. They're always awesome. And I'm gonna take the audio and then throw it up for download on our page as well. Be on the listen out, I guess, for that.
Yeah, because I cut a deal, D. I don't play. All right? I'm like Michael Joseph Madigan. Let's cut a deal. All right? By the way, guys, Republicans, feel free to use that little segment. I'm like Michael Joseph Madigan. He's like Michael Joseph Madigan. I cut a deal. I go, all right, Heidi, Murray, want me to on your show? Let us air it on our show. And they said, okay. One hand washes the other, D, and both wash the face. Think about that.
Oh, my. All right.
Yeah, I'm looking for you. Right. I have to prep for that interview. I'm going to have a delicious sandwich to fortify myself and handle the hardball questions.
Wash your hands and wash your face. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, what do you think about that?
Face coverings.
Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. All right, and yes, Jim, you can call in with another Bulls quiz for Ben, 708-658-4788. We got a nice system here. That was a great segment. We'd love to have it again, 708-658-4788. You can call the show for non-Bulls related things as well. Call us up. Let us know what's on your mind. There's a good chance we will play your voicemail on the program. You can send us an email, BennyJShow@gmail.com. Reach out to us. Leave your name and where you're from. That'd be great. You can find us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more. ChicagoReader.com. And be a Ben head. Be a devotee of the Ben Joravsky Show. Help some dudes out. ChicagoReader.com/Joravsky for more information and more information on Ben's book as well.
I want to thank Maya Dukmasova. Outstanding job as she always does as our guest. Pride and joy of the Chicago Reader. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois. But as folks in Alton can tell you, no, he did. He may have been born in Alton, but he was actually raised in Godfrey, Illinois. Back home in Godfrey, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Face coverings.
That is correct. That is correct.